Alright, in this video we're going to play around with some different layers and how we can uh, display those layers. And so the data that I'll be playing with, which you may or may not have access to, is this file right here, which is an aerial image of Passage Island in Isle Royale National Park. This image, which is a digital elevation model, which simply means that each cell in here, it's a raster, has a value of elevation. So we can click around and these are all sort of different elevation values. It's currently displayed as a grayscale image. We also have a hillshade image, which was created from that digital elevation model, and then the houses or the buildings have been clipped out of that guy. And then we also have some data points which have some lead information associated with them. So if we go to open attribute table, we can see some information here. So this point was over grass, and if we look here at the end, we've got something. This is actually raw energies, but it's associated with lead. So bigger numbers mean more lead. It's not concentrations. Okay, there's different choices we can make about how these data layers are lined up. And so right now we've got the points on top above the hillshade, which is above the digital elevation model, which is above the aerial photo. And we can move these guys around. We can bring this guy up to the top, and so now all we see is the aerial photo. We can bring that guy back down. We can have any sort of combination of things that we want to have on or off. What I'm interested in showing in this first video is I'd like to color code these points by their lead energies. And let's do that over the aerial image. So we've got this guy, and then we've got some choices here about how we want to display them. So typically to change the display from just this red color to something else, we go down to Properties, and then we go to the Symbology tab. And right now it's that single symbol, and if we wanted to, we could change that. We could make it a big, green circle. We can make it any sort of number of different things we were interested in. But we actually want to do it by categories. And in categories, we can change by graduated colors, graduated symbols, or proportional symbols. And let's just take a look at graduated symbols right here. The value that we'll want to be using is this lead L alpha 1. What we can see is, small numbers are tiny little circles and big numbers are big circles. And we can actually change that if we want. And we can just say, but let's just leave the defaults and say OK. So we get a map that looks like that. And so we can look at these big circles and say, oh, big circles are places where there's probably a fair amount of lead, and small circles are not. So that's one way to depict that. If we don't like where those breaks were chosen, we can actually go into this classify. Let me do that again. Right now the classification is natural breaks, Jenks, which is a decision about where these thresholds are for the different sizes. We can make that 10 sizes if we want to, right? We can make that 2 sizes or 4 sizes if we want to. We can also change that classification method. Natural breaks looks through the data and sort of says, oh, it would make sense based on your data distribution to have these different breaks. We can set it to an equal interval. We can set it to manual, where we actually type in the different break levels that we'd like. We can also send it to standard deviation, quantile, all these different options. And if I say OK here and apply, we'll see that now this looks very, very different. So by setting your different thresholds, you can drastically change what this looks like. Oftentimes you'll see data not shown by graduated symbols or proportional symbols, which is just sort of a variation on that idea, but by graduated colors. And again, you can choose the value you want to work with. We're going to choose the same one. You can choose the color ramp that you're interested in. Let's try something like this. You can also work with these ones. There's a whole wide selection of ones to choose from. And again, you can change the number of classes. You can change the type of classification that's used. Let's do equal interval, OK, apply, OK. And then we've got something like this. This wasn't the greatest choice, right? Or again, it depends on what your criteria are. But we've got a lot of white here, and then we just see a few of these outliers. And so there's too many classes. and it doesn't really make too much sense what we're seeing here. So we're going to drop the number of classes, and also I'm going to go back to this natural breaks, which says, okay, there's a lot of data down here, and this looks like these are reasonable ways to break the data up. So let's apply this guy, and let's see what we get here. And now this looks maybe a little bit more intuitive for us to identify some of these higher concentration values.